One of the age, it's tax, tax, tax.
Absolutely. So we had Josh Frydenberg speaking this week at the Sydney Institute. Now Shadow Treasurer Chris Bowen has really returned serve and he's selling very, very hard this Labor's tax package. So he's gone out to the Sydney Morning Herald and the Age to say that if Labor wins the election, they will in fact have a mandate to ram through whatever tax changes they want, because he says that they've been very well publicised, that some of their tax policies, you know, such a wind back of negative gearing, we've been hearing about them since 2016.
Yep.
So you can't say that the voter isn't aware of what Labor stands for at the moment. And also you've got Josh Frydenberg, who is banging on about nothing else these days. So it's a very well-informed voter.
That's right. And the Labor Party has been bold, to its credit, because you don't often see that from a political party in putting out, in this case, tax policy so far ahead of the election. And there is some validity, you think, you'd think with Chris Bowen's argument that they will have a mandate, given how well-known these policies are by now.
Absolutely. And, well, Labor is hoping to grow its Senate majority, but in the event that you do have a divided Senate that we do at the moment, I think that he's also said that they'll have the moral authority to push through these tax cuts. And it's not just negative gearing, it's also capital increases to capital gains tax, and also changes to dividend imputation credits, which is more controversial. But again, it's not like we didn't know about it. We were talking about this during the Batman. Absolutely, and that's
what we saw over the last couple of days.
And whether or not they'll have to delay some of these changes.
Okay, so that's the Fin had that on the front page as well.
So and with the Fin, it was a slightly different tack. It was with changing economic headwinds, or with economic headwinds. The Labor's actually going to need a $200 billion buffer. Well, sorry, the Labor will need a buffer to sort of protect the country against some of these headwinds, and that's how they've justified sort of tax hikes on at the top end of the tax bracket, and also tax relief for income earners under $125,000 to keep them spending, and there's a bit of a stimulatory effect happening there.
Okay, let's go to the Sydney Morning Herald. A great story about how some watchdogs are receiving gifts from people they're meant to be investigating.
Yes, I absolutely love this story. And so while we all know that politicians are held to quite stringent standards and they have to disclose what gifts and entertainment they receive, it's completely different when it comes to the big corporate watchdogs. And we're talking about the ACCC, ASIC, APRA, a great investigation by Royce Miller and Chris Vedalago. And they found that the ACCC, for example, they were taken out for dinner by Energy Australia. You know, and a quite nice dinner in Canberra. And you've got ASIC, which has been taken out by Macquarie. At the same time, Macquarie Bank is under investigation and being forced to pay millions of dollars of compensation by the corporate regulator, ASIC. And these regulators aren't held to the same sort of standards. So you've got the former ACCC Commissioner, Graham Samuel, who's come out to say, hang on a second, we all know these companies aren't operating out of altruism to take some of these officials out to dinner. We know that we need to be very well attuned to what these companies want in exchange for this hospitality.
So they need to be declaring it.
Absolutely. And the amount of effort it took these journalists to try and get any disclosure, and APRA still hasn't come up and said what sort of hospitality and what sort of gifts its officials have accepted.
Moving on to Australia Day, just days away. I saw that Jeff Kennett had waded into this. Interesting.
Jeff Kennett's broken his silence.
Jeff Kennett has broken his silence. I know you guys will be staggered. Jeff Kennett's actually said that he says that we need to change the date. And his rationale is that he actually opens with an account of 4 Indigenous girls under 15 who committed suicide. And he said that changing the date is a way to build trust with the Indigenous community. And, you know, he urges people to sort of get over the histrionics and to say, well, what does Australia Day really mean to the majority of us? He actually says it's a bit of a joke, that people don't really care what day it's on. And the significance of changing the date would far outweigh any link that people have to it at the moment.
Okay, very strong contribution from Jeff Kennett there. The NT News, meanwhile, Samantha, has a rather different take on Australia Day.
Spare a thought for Indigenous Affairs Minister Nigel Scullion, who has been subject to a campaign in the Northern Territory to potentially change Australia Day just so there can be a 3-day holiday. And some of these suggestions are hilarious. You know, one of them includes Australia Day in itself should be a 3-day holiday, so people can actually take time off. There have been other suggestions which are saying that whatever day of the year it falls, people need to get the holiday Monday or the holiday Friday. I find it fascinating because I actually think it lends more weight to the call that Jeff Kennett's made.
Samantha Hutchinson, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, guys.